Hello, my name is Nicole Eller, and this is my artist talk. I wanted to thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about interest and indecision and how it relates to my body of work. So, starting off, I would appreciate it if you didn't read this list too closely. It is from the depths of my notes app, and I didn't read it too thoroughly the first time before I put it here. So, moving on, just remember that. This body of work came from a question that I was asked after or during a somewhat disastrous critique last semester. It had been that first project, and I was painting these singular objects tied to sentimentality, like these here, and I found myself really struggling. I was not enjoying myself, and I wasn't engaged as I am and like to be. I was just incredibly frustrated, and I didn't really know where to go or what to do with that frustration. And so the critique kind of blew up in my face. Maybe not that extreme, but either way, I needed it. It was kind of a wake up, and it pushed me to what we're doing now. But the question that I was asked was, are you an indecisive person? To which my answer was a glaring, yes in giant neon letters. I'm very fickle and I'm very indecisive, and I struggle ordering from a menu just as much as I'm going to struggle, picking something to paint. So like, every decision is a big decision to me. And so as I moved into the second project of last semester, I was thinking, why not rethink about my indecision instead of being a flaw and something that will hold me back and is frustrating, and think about it as an asset. I don't have to be so precious about my choices, and I can just jump into something and work on kind of enjoying my work and myself instead of beating myself up for it. So moving back to this list, we can look at it now. I have a short attention span and a relatively poor memory. So for a long time, I've been keeping track of the different things that I'd like to paint at whatever point in various notes on my phone, as well as Pinterest boards and Instagram folders and TikTok collections and Pinterest boards again and my camera roll. And so you can see that I just have an obscene amount of internet content stored away on my phone. Very little of it will ever see the light of day, but I hoard it and meticulously categorize it all anyway. I have 145 different collections on my TikTok account, and I think it's 147 now. I don't know why, but I love them anyway. And my indecision of what to paint comes from this excessive wealth of interest that I have, because it gets to the point where I want to paint everything all the time, so much so that I at the same time I don't want to paint anything. Everything is appealing, and then nothing is appealing. And so with this body of work, it almost became a balancing act. I had to find what I wanted to paint, make sure it worked in what I was painting, and then jump on it before that desire faded. And so moving into other inspirations that are, aside from what goes on in my little brain, we have Hilary Butterworth, who cultivates these lovingly layered and dynamic sketch pages of subjects that don't always make sense together at first glance, or second, or third. Um, some of her sketch pages have Bambi in them, or other cartoon characters, what she had for lunch that day, or horses. Horses are more fun to draw and paint than you'd expect, or maybe you would expect them to be fun to draw and paint, I don't know. But the subjects she includes speak to one another in ways that aren't always grounded in the classic principles or elements of design. None of these objects are existing in a fore, middle, or background. There's no pressure to create a space for these objects to be. They just get to. That's kind of the end all be all. Like point blank period. They exist because I said so. And I saw this in her work, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I put my little grubby fingers on it and ran with it. And another source of inspiration of mine comes from Joey Cannizzaro, or Sweet Joey Vermouth, as he goes by online, because he has a similarly layered approach of seemingly random imagery. I don't know if it's actually random. He might have some intricate thought process, but he does not share it with me. And his work it features a great deal of performance, and that's not something I do personally, but I admire and resonate with it anyway. He isn't precious with his work. If they fail, that adds to it, and I don't think failure is even a concept he, contemplates on the day to day. And even then, what is failure? I don't know. But he makes these Crayola marker drawings and soaks them in his bathtub or sprays them with bathroom cleaner before laminating them or immortalizing them in glittery resin, and then finishing the whole, process, shebang, what have you, off by throwing the piece in a garbage can a few blocks over. It's never his own garbage can for whatever reason. And moving into my own work, I've included a few in the next two slides that I wanted to talk about specifically, but there are more in this body of work that I can touch on right at the end. But you can see the inspirations from Hilary Butterworth and Joey Cannizzaro are coming through, as well as from other sources. We have 3 a week in Flint and Steel, and they feature lots of Miffy, a Dutch bunny rabbit, text, and whatever else assorted imagery that I find interesting at the time. In 3 a week, I included that toothbrush simply because it was super vertical and didn't entirely make sense, and I like the idea of being confusing, but I'm usually rather easy to read, and so I just pretend. But on the other hand, I include objects and subjects that are deeply sentimental, which hark back to the project that got me into this mess in the first place. There's a green Nissan Cube on Flint and Steel, and that was the first car I learned, this was the car I learned how to drive on. It was the first thing I painted on that page, and then it was the first painting in the series. So a lot of firsts there. And then moving into these three, we have Kirsten, is the somewhat ghostly purple figure on the rubber duckies painting, and she was all I wanted for Christmas that year, like desperately. And so she got a space reserved here. And then in Snoopy, the welder with the thumbs up is me, being goofy, welding mask selfie. And then the teeth came from what could have been in another life, maybe. But I almost studied to be a dentist, as it says, and maybe I wouldn't have been so terrible at it. But I'm so much happier and better at what I'm doing now than I think I could have ever been at dentistry. So, all of that being said, what I hope you're getting from this is that these works are slices of my life, just as much as they are outlets for my creative and artistic interests, and I'm happy with them. And I hope you are getting something from them too. And as I mentioned before, these are the rest of the works on the in the show and in the body. There's a few more in the body of work, but they're hiding, I think. Anyway, I wanted to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen, and I hope you have a good one. Thank you.